Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm back again with another Last Epoch video. This one's going to be about the Rive Healing Hands build that's been going around. This is the bugged version. This is the one where you're generating a ton of ward. I will explain all that once we get to the skills and everything, but I just wanted to say this is bugged and will probably be fixed at some point. But nonetheless, right now it is a lot of fun. I hope that it can become something of a feature once it gets tuned a little bit. Nonetheless, I'm having a blast. I am getting ready to move on to another build, though. We've been playing this one for a week, been trying to find some stuff. I released a video, I believe about a week ago, where I was going over like, hey, look, guys, look what happens here. And so I've been trying to find some gear, trying to tune it up a little bit, and I think you'll like what I found. Let's jump over to the game. All right, here we are in game. I will say there is a build planner in the description down below. So if that's all you need, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing, liking, and maybe leaving a comment. But nonetheless, let's get into it. There's some gameplay playing right now. It's starting off with T4 Julra. Yes, we are playing against T4 Julra. And she's getting iced. Pretty hardcore. Yeah, the build it's pretty effective against bosses, I found, because that's what allows you to build up the most ward. You can just sit there and just claw away at them like some feral Wolverine. And I'm having a ton of fun with that right there. Just nuking Julra. After that, we got some gameplay. We're at 255 corruption there, just kind of running through the monoliths, just killing enemies. I will say there are some slight weaknesses to the build in that regard. There was even one point, it's not going to be in the gameplay, but I got stunned a few times in a row, and if I'm stunned, I'm not generating ward. If I'm not generating ward, I'm dead. So yeah, that happens sometimes, but nonetheless, having a good time with the build. All right, we're getting into the gear. So I'm using a peak of the mountain up here. I slammed it and got +3 healing hands onto here. This is good enough for me. The cold resistance was whatever, but it actually turned out to be a little beneficial depending on how you want to run the build. I'm going with Exsanguinous here. I think Exsanguinous is great. Gives us that 20% current health loss per second equals 20% missing health gained as ward. This is crucial for the build. I got a cleaver solution with a melee critical strike chance as well as chance to bleed on here. This is good because your intelligence is now equal to your strength. We have 61 strength, which means 61 intelligence, which has given us roughly around 244 ward retention. You could try and stash strength in more areas, particularly the boots in my case, but I opted for a touch more armor as I didn't have the proper boots that I needed. You see, the thing with the build, to generate the large amount of ward, you need a lot of healing effectiveness, which is what my idols are doing right now. Normally, builds that I like to run, typically I try to run idols as, a way to shore up the weaknesses in my kit. And for right now, since I'm having to use all my idols for healing effectiveness, not a lot of room for resistances, I'm having to find different places on my gear. This isn't perfect, but it is what it is. I'll try and go over some possible best in slots here, though. I think Peak of the Mountain is probably best in slot if you can get healing hands on there. Cold resistance, I think, is actually really good if you're going to use a particular item. Cleaver solution, I think, is best in slot. I would prefer melee attack speed over chance to bleed, but I'm not going to complain. Exsanguinous, I would say strength is your number one thing that you want to slam in here, but if you have like a 2 LP, maybe like some sort of armor or one of those fancy little, you get armor and reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes. Shatter Chains is your best in slot here. I would say Cleanse is the number one thing you want to have here, but beggars can't be choosers, and this is what I came out with. Siphon of Anguish, this pairs really great with Shattered Chains. It's basically a set. When you're using Siphon of Anguish, all what I'd say you really want on here is critical strike chance and healing effectiveness. I got health regeneration. I'm not going to complain. It gives us a great amount of leech, which we're not using with the build because we have Peak of the Mountain here. But it gives us a chance to apply Doom. And when we apply Doom, Shattered Chains gives us 5% more melee damage per stack of Doom on the enemy. That is more. That is multiplicative with other modifiers. These two items are great for just about any melee build in the game. Can't recommend them enough. Attack speed, attack speed, attack speed. That is what you want the most on this build. So originally I was running these gloves right here, gave me some critical strike chance, some melee attack speed, and it also had the desired affix on here. This was cool, but I wanted more melee attack speed. Also, I wanted to get a little bit more of this, you know, percentage health loss equals more ward, but you could definitely get away with this. As long as you have this affix, no matter what level it is, you'll be fine. But ultimately, I'm opting for melee attack speed. Basically, the way I do my builds, I try and find that one golden affix, and then I try and build the rest of the gear around it. This base is not the best. You could probably do better. I would say the Eternal Gauntlets, the newer ones, the ones that give you some damage reduction against... not damage reduction, but your armor applies against dots. That would help a lot. Dots are still a thing, but they're not as bad in this build. Citadel boots, I say, are really good in the build, especially if you're trying to take reduced damage from critical strikes. I got this pair of boots packed with some resistances here. A little vitality goes a long way. I'm using Code of an Erased Sentinel because it rolled with a T7 critical strike chance. It's also got some frailty on there, as well as increases to armor and a little bit of mitigation against damage over time. We are running two weapons here, so you could definitely run a shield in this slot, but let's have some fun, right? We're playing Void Knight after all. We want that echo chance, man. We want those little purple guys right there. This is what this build's about. If you were running a shield, you'd go play Paladin. Nah, bro, you want the clones. It's the Clone War, baby. So I'm using melee attack speed on my sword, along with some critical strike chance, chance to chill, and chance to shred armor. This feels pretty good. And with our amulet, a little bit of resistances, some critical strike multiplier. The lightning penetration does nothing for us, but I just left it there because I didn't want to mess with it. I only had 5 forging potential, and who knows, might want to edit it down the line once I know for sure. But I would say you're largely looking for critical strike multiplier here. If you're not 100% set on your critical strike chance in the build, critical strike chance would be good. Also, healing effectiveness would probably be best if you're trying to go for huge, massive amounts of ward generation, but I felt like there was diminishing returns when you did that. So I opted for some critical strike multiplier for a little extra damage. And then for my ring, I'm running critical strike chance, healing effectiveness, and some resistances to shore up some weaknesses. So let me go over a couple different things you can do. So you could use Apocalypse Plate. It's newer to the game. I like it a lot. You definitely do more damage with this. Added levels to Rive is always nice, but I felt like we had better ward retention when we were running something like Exsanguinous slammed with the strength. Plus that freed up my gloves. From having to run this affix on my gloves, I can now run it here and just leave it. But Apocalypse Plate is definitely very nice with the build. You do a lot of damage, but I wanted to hold on to some more ward. Like I said, healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness. That's what we got here in the idols. Just healing effectiveness out the wazoo. I think this is the play. Let's go over to the blessings. So these are not 100% set. It's okay though. It's okay. Like I said, I spent a week just trying to farm some gear and stuff like that. I spent like a couple of weeks with this. I am playing Circle of Fortune. that would be fine. Oh, real quick, let me go back before we get into the blessings. I mentioned there was a couple pieces of gear you might want. So if you like to hold on to your ward even more, Frostbite Shackles are a great choice. I would have preferred melee attack speed on here, but nonetheless, cold resistance, it does work with it. It's probably second best choice. But I wanted a T7 melee attack speed, which is actually what I tried to slam into here, but I got cold resistance. Oh well. If you didn't want to run Peak of the Mountain, you could run Leonine's Great Helm. Basically just try and get like healing hands, maybe armor, strength. I got some health, some other stuff here. This is fine. But if you run this with the Citadel boots, you are good off of critical strikes. You're good. If you don't have Shattered Chains, these Spider Silk belts are pretty nice if you're looking for resistances, but if you're good on resistances, I would recommend the new plated belts. Let me see if I got one right here. Plated belt. Okay, and we're back. I would recommend the Praetorian belts. I call them plated belts. They are Praetorian belts. I wouldn't necessarily recommend these affixes. I'm just pointing out that this base gives you a ton of armor. This could help out a lot. But Shattered Chains is best in slot here. And if you don't want to run Code Inverse Sentinel, you got a couple options. You can run Critical Strike Chance, or you could run Healing Effectiveness. There's a couple of great bases out there. It depends on what kind of build you're going for. I wanted to have as close as I could to 100% crit on the build without having to invest too much into the skills, and that's what we got. Let's go to the blessings. So this one, I didn't even go back and play it on Empowered. We're still sitting at the unique drop rate. That's fine. I'm not going to worry too much about these, about a few of these blessings. This one, I was looking for relics. Bam. I chose the relic blessing. Critical strike multiplier. I would say it comes down to critical strike multiplier, shred void resistance, or critical strike chance. Your pick. I went with critical strike multiplier from the Black Sun timeline. Again, this is whatever you're looking for. I'm trying to work on a few different builds as well as keeping an eye out for some gear. So I'm looking for one-handed sword drops. You could be looking for two-handed axes drops. Who knows? Lightning resistance. This one is, I should really go back and fight Lagon and get a better version, but this is what I got. This is what I kept. Another good pick from that timeline would be the health regen. The health regen could be a good one as well. I opted for lightning resistance. Again, this is whatever you're looking for. I preferred the prefix shard drop rate just based off a few of the items I'm looking for. Okay, this one, you got some choices here. If you have your critical strikes taken care of, let's say you've opted for Leonine's Helm, then you don't need this, especially if you're rocking the boots. In this case, I would say all resistance would probably be your best in slot. In my particular case, I've grinded this timeline a couple times. I haven't gotten an all resistance, and I'm still sitting on the blessing I got from regulars. So if you want to go critical strike avoidance, you'll have to fit it into your gear via your ring, but that would definitely work better for you if you're going to be using the helmet, the Peak of the Mountain. If you want to avoid crits. If you don't care because you're generating so much ward, then hey, more power to you. Skill shards. I hate Gaspar. I don't like fighting against Gaspar. I took the skill shard drop rate and I haven't been back since. Now this one helps a lot because Rive does do physical damage. Now we get a little bit of scaling with the void damage here with our echoes. And I've put some void into the kit, but ultimately we're still scaling with physical and we're dealing largely physical. And it was a nearly max. Can you blame me for keeping it? Honestly, best in slot here is probably going to be percentage armor. Nonetheless, this has been a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun. I might switch this out in the future, but for right now, I like this one a lot. And we went with flat armor. And I should probably go back and beat that timeline again. Like I said, I haven't had as much time, and I wanted to get this video out here because there was a lot of people who were really interested in a build, and I figured let's just give you what I got right now, and you guys can go out there and fill in the blanks. Okay. On to the skills. So that was the gear, the idols, and the blessings. On to the skills. You can use whatever you want as your main attack thing. Rive has been a ton of fun. Plus, it gives us this insane echo chance, which, hey, as a Void Knight, we get to take full advantage of that. So I have not opted for the... I don't know if you guys have seen Perry the Pig's video for Paladin. He opted for cadence and double slash just so you can attack much faster. I like the fact that the third strike typically does a little bit more damage anyway, to, you know, opt for a third strike sort of setup. Still getting some damage in on the second strike, third strike. The most important thing is we're not putting points into our criticals because we got it all set up through our gear. But if you're not using Peak of the Mountain, or if your crits are just not there yet, I would recommend Adrenaline, because this can stack up a lot, and this can also help your Healing Hands crits as well. Overall, this is fine. Healing Hands, you got a couple different options here. I wanted to get a little bit more damage out of Healing Hands, so I made it a melee skill. I also picked up some nodes here to give it a little bit more damage. But if you wanted more ward, I would drop these 3 points and put it into Synthesis of Light. But let's discuss the bug while we're here, right? This is a bugged build, like I said at the beginning of the video. So with Divine Barrier, it's supposed to be scaling with attunement, and it's supposed to be giving you ward per attunement. Right now, it's giving you ward based off your healing effectiveness at 100%. From what I've been told, this is a bug, and I believe it. And the way it works with Healing Hands is that if you have this affix, exsanguinous, well, not necessarily exsanguinous, but percentage of current health loss per second equals percentage of missing health gained as ward per second, all of the healing from Healing Hands gets converted into ward. And it, like I said, it's supposed to be scaling with attunement because that's what Healing Hands scales with. It scales with attunement, which gives you healing effectiveness. But right now, that healing effectiveness is being applied at a 100% value to Divine Barrier. On top of it, Synthesis of Light is also supposed to be giving you increased ward per 10% healing effectiveness. Like I said, Divine Barrier is giving you 100%. That is the bug. If you want some more ward, I would put it into Synthesis of Light. But you're definitely going to need Cleric's Hammer. This is what allows us to use Healing Hands in conjunction with Rive. Every time we're attacking with Rive, Cleric's Hammer's going off. It's a ton of fun. I would highly recommend Prayer of the Fallen and Urgent Healing. My particular case, I did not need to put all 3 points into Blessed Parish. I only put 2, and I put 1 point in Purity of Thought. Like I said, you need Searing Light, Cleric's Wrath, Virtue of Patience, and Seraph Blade turns it into a melee attack, allows you to do a little extra damage on top. You could opt for none of this and try and fit in as much healing as possible, but this did. I could definitely feel the damage bump. That's why I opted for some damage. Scissors of Hope, straight up passive buff here. We're looking for Enduring Hope, longer duration, extra sigil, a little extra damage here, and the healing effectiveness per active sigil. Very nice. It's very nice indeed. Just your standard volatile reversal setup, since we're rocking 22 points here. If you didn't know, Cleaver Solution gives you +1 to skills, and Code Inventory Sentinel gives you +1 to skills. That's why we have 25 in Healing Hands instead of 23 with our +3 bump. Just pretty much your standard setup right here. It's all in the planner. Anomaly. Anomaly is super good. All right. Anomaly is super good for the build. So, like a lot of builds, we kind of just focus on this side of the tree when it comes to anomaly. You got a couple different options. But for the most part, you're going for time bubble, you're going for attack speed, you're going for bubble duration, cooldown reduction. Time bubble is cast on you, that way it follows you around. The effects of the time bubble persist for a couple seconds after that. Those are your primaries. Now here's where the options come in. I personally opt for, instead of it being a combo skill, it just gets triggered immediately. Enemies aren't sitting time and you snap them back. None of that. Just whatever effects were about to take place, they take place immediately. Enemies hit by anomaly are afflicted with time rot when they return. This is nice. Now here's where the options come into play. If you need critical strike chance, you can put up to 5 points here. And as long as anomaly is active, you get a nice up to 150% critical strike chance bonus. This is very good. Very good indeed. I don't need it. I just needed one node. That's where I put it. So your next options are, you can go down here, which is what I've opted for more damage, or especially if you're just straight up bossing or raiding dungeons or something like that all the time, you can go up this side of the tree. You take time lock, you cast anomaly on an enemy, you get your time bubble, they get locked into place. This increases the duration. It works super great on bosses. Or you can go down to exacerbate, which is you increase the time rot duration. It's fine, but what we're looking for is Mark of Rot. When enemies return to the present, they take increased void damage for a duration, 100% extra void damage taken. This helps, even though Rive is physical, we still get to apply some void damage to it. All right, that is the skills. Let's get on into the passives. We have taken 30 points into the Sentinel tree here. I've opted for as many points in strength as I could. So 8 points, 2 points, 5 points for armor clad, 5 points for valiant charge, 4 points in time and faith. This helps with mana generation if we need it. 1 point in gladiator, allows us to dual wield. You can put whatever in your main hand and a sword in your second hand. You can't run double cleavers. It's unfortunate, but there we go. And then 5 points in blade master. 30% extra attack speed with swords and axes. Guess what we're using? We're using a sword and we're using an axe. Into the Void Knight tree. So essentially what I did, if you're leveling this, I put 5 points into the Paladin tree to get healing hands. Then I took care of my Void Knight tree afterwards. And then I came back, picked up 7 points in Valor and 7 points in Holy Icon, and there you go. Let's start with the Void Knight tree, because I'm assuming you're a bit of a higher level. If you're leveling this, good luck. So 10 points in Abyssal Endurance, 2 points in Temporal Corruption. The reason why is I'm trying to get some extra melee void damage out of it. To try and go with Rive. I do feel like it helps, but I've also put 5 points into Sorrow and Steel. This gives us both void increase and physical damage increase, because we are trying to primarily do damage with Rive. 1 point in Void Corruption for that nice critical strike multiplier. Feels good. 5 points in Doom Knight. Not 5. 8 points in Doom Knight for that strength and health. We're looking for the strength primarily. 5 points in Finality, which increases our melee void damage, as well as it gives us a kill threshold. This is where the juicy stuff starts to come from. 5 points in Echoing Strikes gives us an extra 10% echo strike chance, or echo chance, which we already come with a base of 10%. So this is another 10%. 10 points in Time Legion gives us 30% melee attack speed and 10% echo chance, as well as 20% time rot chance. So with these, we are now up to 30% echo chance, 1 point in Avatar of Regret. We do lose some attack speed. It kind of sucks. I don't run it in every melee build that I do, but in this one, we could suffer the consequences and just get that extra 10% echo chance. This might not be required because it's already doubled on Rive, but this is how I've been using it, and this is how I've been enjoying the game. So that's how I went forward with it. Oh. And then in Paladin, I got my resistances to a good spot. This is where I originally invested them, so I took it out of that. Put it into Conviction for the increased damage as well as the penetration for physical. 7 points in Valor just for the healing effectiveness. 7 points in Holy Icon for the healing effectiveness. You could, if you just want even more healing effectiveness, go up into this tree to get the healing increased. And so that is the passive points. So let's see. We went through gear. We went through idols. Went through our skills. And we went through our passives. So anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I wish you great success. Hopefully it doesn't get nerfed anytime soon, but it probably will be nerfed. Just putting it out there. This build, as far as I'm aware of, is bugged. So nerfs might be coming, but for right now, I hope you guys enjoy it, and we shall see what the build would look like after there are changes to the whole setup. Till then, enjoy. I've been Babbling Bike. You guys take care. Have yourselves a good one. Cheers.